Genesis chapter 19, verse 27. And Abram went early in the morning to the place where it stood before the Lord. Okay, so I can again imagine Abram knowing what's going to happen, being worried about maybe his family, most likely still, although they had no good relationship, but still, kinsmen, and what happened to the city, and to see how this was all fulfilled. So, early in the morning, Has got up when he could see, because going at night you can't see, so when he could see, so he went to the city, to the place where before he was interceding for Sodom and Gomorrah, to see what happened. Verse 28. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the valley. And he looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like smoke of a furnace. So, getting there, looking down into the valley. Okay, we can't look down into the valley here because I wanted to come and record your destruction of the earthquake. But so looking down, we saw the destruction. We saw the smoke coming up. Verse 29. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the valley, God remembered Abram and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. Okay? So here we see that the reason Lot was saved was because God remembering Abram. Right? And therefore he sent out Lot. So it is thanks to Abram's righteousness that Lot was saved. Okay, at least as it is written here. The connection between this story and the flood story. In the flood, remember when Noah was on the ark, God remembered him. Right? And so Noah, because of Noah, the rest of the family was saved. God remembered Abram, and therefore Lot was taken out. So he was not destroyed in the city with the rest because of ultimately the righteousness of Abram. Verse 30. Now Lot went up out of Zoar and lived in the hills with his 2 daughters. For he was afraid to live in Zoar. So he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. Now, so here Lot gets to Zoar, right? Behind his back, Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. Okay, now in this case Sodom, Gomorrah was destroyed as well in the process, but he came out of Sodom. And what would the people in Zoar think? He's the only one who escaped with his life, right? In other words, he knew something. Why didn't he tell other people? So there would have been lots of stories spread concerning Lot here in the city of Zoar. People would have looked at him, rightly so, justifiably so, right, from a human point of view, as if, why only Lot? Did Lot survive? So lots of stories being spread. Now we understand that those other people were judged, and actually the reason the Zoar people ought to have been very happy, they ought to have been very happy and grateful towards Lot, because they were spared because of Lot, who was spared because of Abram. But no, they didn't see that. They were sinners. They didn't know that. Okay? Like people on this planet, they need to understand that it's thanks to the church, actually, that it still rains on them. If there were no church, it will stop raining, literally. Right? Lots of good things still happen through the true church. That is, I'm not speaking of the false church, the true church of God. So there's lots of blessings that come from God to the church because we're children of Abram. And therefore the world is blessed because of the church, the true church. But the world doesn't see that. Okay, like in this case, Zoar doesn't understand that, because ultimately the righteousness of Abram is the reason why Lot was saved, and that's the reason why they were saved. They don't see it. their eyes, they are blind. So they were here then angry ultimately at, and Lot felt that this is not a good place for him. So he had to flee. He had to flee ultimately to the mountains, to the hills, as he was told way back in the beginning by the angels. Go up there to the mountain, to the hills, right? Go to the hills. So now this is what he did. And this is then where he went to live in the cave with his two daughters. Okay, so Lot started out with having lots of things, and because of that, his workers thrived with the workers of Abram, and ultimately which led to strife between Lot and Abram. So they went up the mountain, and Lot chose the place that's financially best. And he went down east to his evil city where he lived. He made his choice. He chose the world. He chose against God. And where did it end up? It ends up in a cave, no wife, just two daughters, nothing, no workers, no flock, nothing, absolutely nothing. That's all. He had nothing left. Okay. Short-term gain, long-term loss. This is what happened to Lot. You can ask as well the same question in the world. People working for short-term gain, to get now rich, to get rich fast. That's how businesses operate. They want to give money to their the stockholders, so the stock will rise, so they can get more money out of it. So they're willing to let people go for short-term gain, which ultimately leads then to later on financial ruin. But even if it doesn't lead to financial ruin later on, right, it leads to eternal death. So often as well as Christians we do that same kind of thing. Okay, we do things for short-term gain. We don't want to make people feel bad, other Christians feel bad, because if I tell the truth now, then they're going to be angry at me. So I don't tell the truth now. I hide the truth so as to. So it's short-term gain. But then ultimately the truth does come out, and it hurts so much more. Or it leads to other problems, bigger problems. It leads to conflict. It leads to dissension. It leads to strife just because you are playing the short game. You're looking for short-term gain. Now as Christians we must not be like that. Remember, this life is not everything. This choice you now make, you need to make the right choices always. It's better to suffer now than to suffer for all eternity. It's better to be poor on this planet and have nothing, and even lots of suffering, and die with your head cut off, or on a fire stake somewhere, right? Like Paul and Peter died, like Stephen died, stoning. That's better because, you die, and short-term loss, but long-term gain. You did, but you're with Christ. Again, Lot made the wrong choice. Ultimately, he lost it all. And Abram gained it all. The difference. What is your choice? Are you going to make the wrong choice for short-term gain and end up under the wrath of God for all eternity in hell? Verse 31. And the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there's not a man on earth to come in to us after the manner of all the earth. So now his daughters has a big problem. They are branded. They are signaled out. Everybody knows who they were. Everybody knew they came from Sodom. Everybody knew that there were only survivors there. The people, finding a husband living in a cave, or willing to go with someone, a girl living in a cave, not that high, right? It will be difficult. With their kind of the baggage, this knowledge concerning who they are, it would be very difficult for them. At least at that stage, that's how they were thinking. I'm pretty sure after things would have calmed down, and they might have been able. They're still virgins. They might have been able, even if their father had absolutely nothing, which still somewhere maybe they would have been able to get a husband. But yes, it would have been in the culture very difficult for Lot to find a husband later on for them. Sure, living in a cave, no way, right? But later on, maybe things could have. Abram's still around. Abram could have helped them get back on their feet, kind of idea, right? So, but they were, like their father, thinking of short-term gain. Now, here and the now, after we had to leave even Zoar because of our feelings, now we're in a cave. Everything looks so bleak, everything looks so dark. So we need to find a solution. We need to find our valley. We need to find our short-term gain. So, where will we find? How will we get children? Here we have a man, right? Here we do have a man. That is what they're going to do. So yes, the father is old, as is stated in this verse. Finding someone, it's going to be difficult, because the father had to arrange for the marriage. It's going to be difficult, but it's still possible. But they were not thinking like that. They were like their father, thinking of the here and the now. So let's see the plan they come up. Verse 32. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve offspring from our father. So what plan did they come up with? An evil plan. Let's make our father drunk, sleep with him, and have offspring. Really? You come up with this plan, and you think that is the right thing to do? Sure not. It's not the right thing to do. Trust God. Be like Abram. They were like their father. Now, this section as well is connected again to Noah. How? Noah, after being saved in the deluge, in the flood, came out of the flood, what did he do? He planted vineyards, he made wine, he got drunk. Here, Lot, saved from the destruction of Sodom, what does his daughters do? They get him drunk. Okay, so that same connection as well, that's made from there to this story. Will it lead to anything good? In Noah's case, it led to the curse on Canaan. Right? In this case, it leads to the birth of two boys, the Moabites and the Ammonites. And do you see as well the connection? They are in the desert where they meet the Moabites and the Ammonites. They're on the land, on the way to the land of Canaan. So all these stories are all interconnected to show ultimately their right on what they are doing and give explanations of what is happening here. Verse 33. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down, when she arose. Okay, so that is what they did. They gave him the wine, and then the firstborn.
So, brother, do you want chair or something like that?
What?
Chair.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Just stand.
Simply,
Yes.
Kumang's father-in-law.
Okay. Yeah, no. Give us Simply. Okay. So, verse 34. The next day the firstborn said to the younger, Behold, I lay last night with my father, Let us make him drink wine tonight also. Then you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve offspring from our father. Right? So it wasn't enough that she, the older daughter, did. Now she's telling the younger, oh no, you now, let's do it again. Now, Lord, I mean, okay, so he didn't know she came. He didn't know she left. But, I mean, the previous night he was drunk. He would have woken up with a headache the next day and to immediately kind of let that. Now, yes, he lost it all. Right? Put yourself in Lot's shoes. He made the wrong choices. He was rich. He had a house in the city. He had lots of cattle. He had lots of servants. He had a wife. He had daughters. He had a nice life. He had a good life. Then the city was destroyed because he made the wrong choice. Then he fled to one city, Zoar, when he had to flee and now live in a cave. Really, he lost it. He is down in the dumps. Now, sure, that's no excuse for you getting drunk. Right? There's never an excuse for getting drunk. Drinking wine is not a sin. Getting drunk is a sin. So there's no excuse. You don't solve your problems by drinking them away. You just create more problems because now you even have less money after that, right? People think that they drink their problems away. Getting drunk will let the problems disappear. No, it's not going to disappear. All it will make is that your money will disappear. And you have less money then ultimately to get back on your feet, right? But this is now, Lot has nothing to lose anymore. So he is trying to, so it is kind of easy for his daughters to get him drunk because he wants to try and forget. Again, not justification of. I'm just trying to say, put yourself in his shoes, and lots of people do that for that reason. They are wrong, like he was here. But this is just explaining why it's easy for them to get him the next day as well, drunk. And that is what they did again.